Um, so this is a very short, watered down version of what happened yesterday in our first meeting for 25 high tide flags with Homma. And eventually, I am sort of recording this, but I just feel that recordings will just defeat the purpose of what I am trying to do here. But anyways, I didn't want anyone to who's really want to do it not miss it. So I concede and I therefore am recording. But remember that it's a watered down version. But again, you will not miss very much because we will be meeting regularly almost every day for 10-15 minutes, and whatever we have discussed here will again be reiterated so many times uh, that if you're really uh, have open ears, you will not miss anything, right? So first of all, I will start to begin with the the Google Sheet, which everything is there on the group description. Okay, Google Sheet and the high tide flag link. But this one also I'm gonna share in some other way so that you don't have to like one by one pick it up and enter. Okay, so now the general rule is like, first, why I wanted to do this, the purpose of doing this is to learn while teaching, right? So I am also going to learn a lot of things about high tide flags, and it's the the idea is not to like make money, grow your account per se right now, but as a proof of concept that hey, this is how one can trade high tide flags. Okay, so these are the two main purpose. So this is the watch list link again. So general rules about position sizing. So position sizing one can take according to their wish, according to their convenience. So like, but the only rule is that you have to pick equal size for all 25 trades. So you cannot trade 10,000 rupees for one trade and like 50,000 for the other, right? So basically make sure that the sizes are equal, uh, and no more than four positions with open risk. So the idea, the open risk money, I will again talk a little bit more below. Entry style is basically a breakout kind of a style, but one can also enter a breakout with a GTT or manually. Okay. So there are, while trading high tide flags, there are basically four kind of entries: a cheat entry, DTL breakout entry, O'Neill pivot breakout entry, and an A-but entry. So A-but stands for anticipation at the base of the 30. Okay, so again we will see examples of this, and all fours has like pros and cons. Okay, now what's the entry time? GTT can be triggered anytime, but if you are entering manually, there are only two windows where you are taking the entry: 9:20 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. and after 3:20 a.m. Okay, so these are the only time we are going to take the trades. Why? Again, one can generally stick in front of the monitor and wait for an entry the whole day, but we are also sort of optimizing for less time, and have a followable routine which is very easy. General rule for stop loss should not be more than 10%. Okay, should not be more than 10%. Trailing and management. So this is where your trade management comes. So for example, your risk can be 5% to 10%. Let's say it's 10%, right? So then in that case, the first sell will be at 20%. That is 2R. Okay, and you sell half the quantity, and the rest you then trail with a moving average or a super trade. Okay, whichever one you find the best. It's your preference. Journal entry. Now this is very important and non-negotiable. As soon as you take the entry, um, and again hopefully the entries are not like 10 entries a day, right? So maximum will have like 1-2 entry at the beginning. So you enter your journal as soon as possible. Like, this is non-negotiable, right? At the end of the day, when I log your trades, your trade should be there, right? So this is non-negotiable, and this is also a practice which many swing traders, apparent swing traders who want to be big good traders, do not do, is that enter their journal. So I hope that I will also be helping you with some of the discipline you need to succeed as a trader. Now let's go and look at the journal So this is the simplest journal A B C D E F G P. So this is the trade number, and at some point of time you will have the number 26 trade here. Sorry, number 25 trade here. Stock name, entry trigger, right? Entry trigger and setup. So here how we do is you first say GTT or manual. Okay, so it will be GTT or manual. Then you say when it triggered. So it will be morning or O or C, open or close. Sorry, that would be open or close. Okay, so this is how we do. Open or close. It'll be one of them. Then a hyphen, and then your setup. So the setup is basically it was a cheat entry, or it was O'Neill breakout, you know, or it was a APUT entry, or the other one which is basically a DTL breakout entry. So let's say my was GTT, and if it is GTT, it doesn't have to be M or O, because GTT is GTT, and let's say cheat, right? So something like this. Entry date, entry price, what was the stop loss, what was the, I mean, stop loss price, and hence what is the percentage of stop loss. Trailing SL. Now trailing SL can be used, I mean, like, because trailing SL will be at the beginning same as the stop loss. So once you de-risk your trade, then you can enter this the TSL. So it's not very important. So first exit. So first exit always at 2 hour. Okay, and you just enter here at what price point did you exit. Now because it's already at 2 hour, you can already put a GTT order here, right? And then exit, sorry, this is exit date, exit 1, exit price, then number of days held, right? So number of days held would be entry date minus exit date minus entry date. So this will automatically be filled up. What was the profit percentage? Then exit to date, price, number of days, and profit. So this is very simplest um, trade journal for you guys. And so once you have the first 50% gone, sold, that means that your trade now is risk free, right? So once you have a risk free, then you can have, let's say you have 8 open positions, you can only have maximum 4 positions with open risk, right? Now let me show you these 4 entries and what I mean by open risk, right? So for example, let's say this is the high tide flag watch list, which we are going to go through every day. So let's say I'm going to enter on IMCO Elecon. Okay, let's say I have a GTT order at 1612.85, right? And let's say it got triggered and my stop loss is below this, which is 8.85, right? So 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 now my first sell would be at about 1896. Why? Because that is twice my risk, right? So how much I have made is that I have made twice my risk. So my risk was 142.5 rupees on one stock. Now I have made 285.5 rupees on my stock, so that I have made twice the risk, right? So only once your price comes here and then you sell half, then what happens is in the remaining position, even if it hits stop loss, you are still at a profit, right? So let's give an example, a simple example. Let's say you bought 2 shares of IMCO Elecon, right? So 2 shares may, if it hits your stop loss, you are going to lose 284 rupees, because per share it's 142. So once this guy hits 285, you are already making 280 you're already making 285 on one stock. So you sell one stock, You are getting 285 on one stock, and let's say it comes back and hits your stop loss, you are losing 142, right? So 285 minus 142, you are still on this trade making 142 rupees. So that's what I mean by risk free trade, you know. So there are a lot of different ways to manage your stop loss and trailing stop loss after you take a trade, but the simplest way is basically add to our sell half and trail the rests, right? So we are all going to follow this, the simplest one. Going forward, I would also probably talk more about the different ways of how one can de-risk and stuff like that, but that's not what we are here for, right? Now, um, so these are the flagged ones, are the names which I like for the moment. And so let me just go on and give you all the examples of the kind of trade, of the kind of entries we are going to take. So the first entry is the O'Neill entry. The O'Neill entry is basically if you put a line at the top of the pole. So if this is the pole, the higher, any breakout above the highest high of the pole will be an entry, and that we call as the O'Neill pivot. O'Neill pivot breakout entry, right? And this entry will be open in all the high tide flags. So electrotherm right now is at the O'Neill breakout entry. Okay. Now the second kind of entry, so this is also at O'Neill breakout entry. The second kind of entry is called a cheat entry. Now what's a cheat entry? Is that cheat entry is a entry above the cheat pivot, and the cheat pivot is a pivot which is basically any pivot inside the base which is not the O'Neill pivot. So यहाँ पे O'Neill pivot कौन सा है? ये है, right? This is the O'Neill pivot, and anything else. So right now this is the pivot. Now apart from being a non-O'Neill pivot, a cheat pivot also should have a tight area, tight range, right? And do you see a tight range here? Yes, you see a tight range here. So any breakout of this can be viable, and that will call a that we will call a cheat pivot entry. Okay. So let's say if a tight range builds up around this pivot, that would be an O'Neill pivot. Sorry, cheat pivot, right? So there is another entry called a DTL breakout entry. What is DTL breakout entry? So DTL stands for downtrend line, and DTL breakout entry means like a breakout of the downtrending line. So this is a trend line, one touch, two touch, three touch. This is a very decent trend line, downtrending, and the breakout of which is an entry, you know, viable entry, because sometimes the DTL breakouts will follow through and eventually a breakout. So this is a breakout entry, and just make sure that before the DTL entry you have a higher low. So this is the low, this is the low, the next the immediate low is higher than the previous low, right? So that increases your chances. The last kind of entry is I think we've covered it all, right? DTL only. The last kind of entry is something I call as A-but entry. So these three are breakout entries. A-but is not a breakout entry, but it's an anticipation entry. So for that, let's go to an example here, which is OMEX, right? So if you've noticed, in most of the high tide flags, the master of the flag also contains a pattern which is a high, VCP pattern, okay, volatility contraction. And so in this case, this is the first contraction, and remember there has to be contraction, okay? So this is the contraction 1, minus 23%. This is the contraction 2, minus 16%. And right now we are undergoing the third contraction. And right now it's also almost like half of that, right? So it's very soon going to reverse. Now, what from my observation I have seen is that when a VCP has so here it's how it works. As the number of T's in the VCP increases, the breakout, we are more closer to the breakout, right? So a VCP with 4T is more closer to a breakout than a VCP with 3T. Similarly, VCP with third T is more closer to a VCP with a second T. Okay, it's like the statistics are like that, right? So now I have seen that after 3T most uh, VCPs break out. Most by most, I mean let's say 80% of VCPs after 30 they break out, and that's why you can already anticipate once you get a pivot low. So this is the pivot low here, this is the pivot low, and third वाला का pivot low अभी तक आया नहीं है. So for the third pivot low to occur, and pivots are the three candlestick pattern, the low of the pivot low has to be lower than the previous two lows, right? So right now we don't have that. And once that occurs, you can then take an entry anticipating that the bounce will come, right? So for example, one example which I can tell you because I traded that is a Newland slab. So in Newland lab, when we had a high tide flags slash VCP here, this was T1, this was T2, this was T3. So here there is a clean pivot. Actually, even this was a pivot because uh, the low here and the low in the next candle is higher than the low here, right? So this low is 2875.4. This low is 2885. That means this low is higher. So we have a pivot. And once we have already the pivot of the third T, you can already enter anywhere. Now, sometimes it takes some uh, time to build a tight area like how it did here, but any entry around here and in this candle was an entry according to the uh, third last entry style, which is the ABOTT entry, anticipation at the base of 30, right? So that is the only anticipation setup we are going to use, because like you need to have varieties, and sometimes these anticipations will have more chances. I mean, will give you a best entry possible, and at some point when you are really trading this for your account, you can also size them properly and well. So those are the four entries, and that's all we discussed mostly yesterday. And again, thank you for joining this with me. I really hope that it will teach you something valuable of about how to trade high tide flags. It'll also give you some level of confidence in trading this going forward, and hopefully also teach me a lot of things. And maybe some of us in our group knows how to trade high tide flags better, and we will know that. Okay, so again, I have given access to everyone on for this sheet. So just copy paste this guy and name yourself. Okay, every day after market close, sometime at night before I go to sleep, I will save a copy of this so that I know how many people took what trades, and how many people did their journal entry on that day. Okay, and I will repeat this again. This is non-negotiable. Failing to do this will signal that uh, you are not very serious about this. Okay, so with that I'll stop this, and cheers guys, welcome.